Morning light spilled like liquid gold across the marble floors of Sterling Heart Institute. The Pacific Ocean stretched endlessly beyond floor-to-ceiling windows, its waves catching fire in the rising sun. Classical music whispered through hidden speakers. Fresh orchids perfumed the air. Everything gleamed with the polish of wealth and excellence. Dr. Gabriel Sterling adjusted his platinum cufflinks, his eyes scanning the tablet in his hand. At 35, he had built a reputation as one of the most brilliant cardiac surgeons in the country. Dark hair, piercing blue eyes, and a presence that commanded every room. He had seen thousands of patients, each face blurred into the next. His world was precision, protocol, professional distance. Emotions were complications he couldn't afford. "Doctor, your next patient has arrived." Mrs. Chen's voice was soft as silk. Miss Violet Rose, 24 years old, referred for cardiac evaluation. Gabriel glanced at the file without interest. "Send her in." The door whispered open. Gabriel sensed her before he saw her. When he finally looked up, something in his chest tightened. She was the most delicate woman he had ever seen. Auburn hair fell in gentle waves past her shoulders. Eyes the color of spring violets. A cream dress that seemed to float around her small frame. She clutched a vintage handbag against her chest, like armor. But what struck him most was her posture. She stood hunched, as if trying to disappear into herself. Her eyes darted everywhere except to his face, and her hands trembled. "Miss Rose." Gabriel rose from his chair, gesturing to the examination table. "Please, have a seat." She moved like a frightened deer. Perched on the edge of the table, feet barely touching the floor, she pulled her cardigan tight despite the California sunshine flooding the room. "What brings you here today?" Gabriel settled into his chair, opening her file. Sparse information. Age 24. Heart palpitations. Chest tightness. No medical history. Her voice was barely a whisper. "My heart feels like it's racing all the time. Sometimes I can't breathe, especially when there are people around." Gabriel made notes, his pen scratching against paper. "Any family history of heart disease?" She shook her head. "My parents died when I was young." "I don't know their medical history." Something in her tone made him look up. There was a depth of sadness in those violet eyes, a loneliness that went beyond loss. He found himself studying her face, the way she retreated into herself whenever he looked directly at her. "I need to listen to your heart." Gabriel reached for his stethoscope. "If you could remove your cardigan." Violet's reaction was immediate. She shrank back, eyes wide with something that looked like terror. "I can't." Gabriel paused. In years of practice, he had seen anxious patients. But this was different. This wasn't medical anxiety. This was something deeper. "Miss Rose." He set the stethoscope aside, his voice gentler than he intended. "Are you uncomfortable with the examination?" Her cheeks flushed rose red. She stared at her trembling hands. I haven't ever." Gabriel leaned forward, drawn by her distress. Something about her vulnerability touched a part of him he thought he had buried. "Take your time," he said softly. Violet took a shaky breath. For the briefest moment, her eyes met his. "I've never been touched by a man before. Never been examined by a doctor. This is the first time I've seen anyone about my heart." The words hung in the air between them. Gabriel felt something shift inside his chest. The way she said it, with such raw honesty, made his breath catch. His professional mask slipped. Just for a second, but long enough for him to realize this woman was about to change everything. "Then we'll go slowly." Gabriel heard himself say. His voice was warm, protective, unfamiliar. "I promise I won't do anything that makes you uncomfortable." Violet's eyes glistened. "Why are you being so kind?" Gabriel didn't have an answer. At least not one that made sense. He had built walls around his heart for a reason. Emotions complicated everything. But looking at this fragile woman with violet eyes and trembling hands, he felt those walls beginning to crack. "Because you deserve kindness," he said quietly. The words surprised them both. Violet's lips parted slightly. Something flickered in her expression. Hope, maybe? Or recognition. as if she had been waiting her whole life for someone to say those words. "I'm scared," she whispered. "I know." Gabriel stood, moving closer but keeping distance. "But I'm going to help you. Not just your heart. All of you." The promise hung heavy in the air. Gabriel didn't know why he said it. Didn't understand the pull he felt toward this stranger. But in that moment, staring into eyes that held oceans of pain and innocence, he knew his carefully controlled life was about to spiral into chaos. And the terrifying part was, he didn't want to stop it. Violet's next words shattered the last of his defenses. "What if my heart is broken in ways you can't fix?" Gabriel's jaw tightened. "Then we'll figure it out together." But neither of them knew the darkness waiting in the shadows. The secrets that would tear them apart. The betrayal that would break them both, and the sacrifice that would cost everything. 3 weeks passed like a fever dream. Gabriel found himself doing something he had never done before. He personally oversaw every aspect of Violet's care. Daily appointments stretched into conversations. Medical examinations became moments of connection. He learned she lived alone in a small apartment in the arts district. That she painted watercolors of the ocean, but never visited the beach. That she hadn't spoken to another person in weeks before coming to him. "Why not?" Gabriel asked one afternoon. Rain drummed against the windows of his office. Violet sat curled in the leather chair across from him, looking impossibly small. "People scare me." Her fingers traced the rim of her teacup. "They always have. After my parents died, I went to live with my aunt. She kept me inside, said the world was dangerous, that I was too fragile for it." She paused. Maybe she was right. Gabriel felt anger flare in his chest. She was wrong. Violet looked up, surprised by the heat in his voice. "You're not fragile," Gabriel continued. He stood, moving to the window. "You're scared. There's a difference. Fragile things break. You're still here, still fighting. That's not fragility. That's strength." Silence stretched between them. When Gabriel turned back, Violet was staring at him with an expression that made his heart stumble. "No one has ever said that to me before," she whispered. Gabriel crossed the room before he could stop himself. He knelt in front of her chair, close enough to see gold flecks in her violet eyes. "Then no one has really seen you." Her breath hitched. Gabriel. It was the first time she had used his first name. The sound of it on her lips sent heat through his veins. This was dangerous territory. He knew it. Felt it in every fiber of his being. Doctors didn't cross these lines. Didn't blur boundaries with patients. Didn't feel this consuming need to protect someone they barely knew. But Gabriel had already crossed the line. He just hadn't admitted it yet. "I need to tell you something," Violet said, her voice trembling. "About why I'm really here." Gabriel's pulse quickened. "I'm listening. My heart problems." She twisted her hands together. "They're not random. They started 6 months ago. After I saw him. Violet's face paled. "Marcus Thorne. He's a businessman. Powerful. Connected. He came into the gallery where I worked. Started talking to me. At first, he seemed kind. Interested in my art?" Her voice dropped. "But then he became obsessed. He found out where I lived. Started showing up. Leaving things at my door. Calling me at night." Gabriel's blood turned to ice. "Did he hurt you?" "No, not physically. But the way he looked at me," she shuddered, "like I was something to own. Something to collect. I quit my job. Moved apartments. Changed my number. But I still feel him watching me. My heart races every time I leave my apartment. I can't breathe in crowds. I thought maybe it was a medical problem. But deep down, I know it's fear." Gabriel's hands clenched into fists. "Does he know you're here?" "I don't think so. I've been so careful." Violet's eyes filled with tears. "I'm sorry. I should have told you from the beginning. But I was afraid you'd think I was crazy. That this was all in my head." Gabriel reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away. When she didn't, he took her trembling hands in his. The contact sent electricity up his arms. "You're not crazy. And you're not alone anymore. I won't let anyone hurt you." Violet's tears spilled over. "Why do you care so much?" It was the question Gabriel had been avoiding for 3 weeks. The answer terrified him. Because somewhere between her first whispered confession and this moment, he had stopped seeing her as a patient, had started seeing her as something infinitely more dangerous. Because, Gabriel said slowly, his thumbs brushing over her knuckles, I haven't felt anything in years. Not since my sister died. I built walls so high, I forgot what it was like to care about someone. But then you walked into my office, looking like the world had already broken you, and something inside me woke up. I can't explain it. I don't even understand it. But I know I'd burn down everything I've built to keep you safe. Violet stared at him, shocked. Your sister? Gabriel's jaw tightened. He had never told anyone this story. Never let anyone close enough to ask. She died 10 years ago. During surgery, not mine. But I was there. I watched the life drain from her eyes and couldn't do anything to stop it. That's why I became a cardiac surgeon. To save people. To fix what I couldn't fix then. He looked away. But I stopped feeling anything in the process. Until you? Violet's hand moved to his face. The touch was feather-light. Hesitant. But it set his skin on fire. I'm falling for you, she whispered. And it terrifies me. Gabriel's control snapped. He surged forward, capturing her face in his hands. It terrifies me, too. Their lips met in a collision of desperation and need. The kiss was soft at first, tentative, then deeper. Violet's hands tangled in his hair. Gabriel pulled her closer, tasting salt from her tears and something sweeter beneath. Years of loneliness poured into that kiss. Years of fear and isolation and walls crumbling to dust. When they finally broke apart, both were breathing hard. This is wrong, Gabriel said, his forehead pressed against hers. I'm your doctor. There are rules. Ethics. Then stop being my doctor, Violet breathed. Gabriel pulled back, searching her eyes. You don't know what you're asking. I'm asking you to take a chance on me. On us, because I've never felt this alive. And I think you haven't either. She was right. God help him. She was right. Gabriel stood, pulling Violet to her feet. If we do this, I need to do it right. No more doctor-patient relationship. I'll refer you to a colleague, someone who can actually help with your medical needs without this complication. Violet nodded. Okay. And I need you to move in with me. Her eyes widened. What? If Marcus Thorne is dangerous, you're not safe alone. My penthouse has security, cameras, guards. Gabriel's voice turned hard. He won't get near you. I promise. Violet's expression shifted to something Gabriel couldn't read. For a moment, he thought he saw fear, but not of Marcus. Of something else. "'Kay," she said finally. "I'll move in." Gabriel pulled her into his arms. Relief flooded through him. He pressed a kiss to the top of her head, breathing in her scent. Lavender and something uniquely her. But neither of them saw the shadow watching from the street below, or the phone camera capturing every moment through the rain-streaked window, or the message being sent with the photos attached, found her. With the doctor proceeding as planned, Marcus Thorne smiled as he read the message. Everything was falling into place, and the person sending those messages was someone Gabriel trusted. Someone inside his own clinic. Gabriel's penthouse was glass and steel, suspended 50 stories above the city. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a view that stretched from downtown to the ocean. Modern art hung on pristine white walls. Everything was clean, minimalist, perfect, and completely devoid of warmth. Violet stood in the center of the living room, her small duffel bag clutched in both hands. She looked lost in all that space. "The guest room is down the hall," Gabriel said, gesturing. "But you can sleep wherever you're comfortable. Consider this your home." Violet turned to him, something unreadable in her eyes. "Thank you. For all of this, I know it's complicated. Complicated doesn't begin to cover it." Gabriel set his keys on the marble counter. "But I meant what I said. You're safe here." That night, Gabriel lay awake in his bedroom, acutely aware of Violet sleeping down the hall. Every instinct screamed at him to go to her, to hold her. But he forced himself to stay put. She needed time, space, safety. not his hands on her skin and his mouth on hers, no matter how much his body ached for it. At 3 in the morning, a scream shattered the silence. Gabriel bolted from his bed, heart hammering. He found Violet in the guest room, tangled in sheets, her face wet with tears. She was still asleep, trapped in a nightmare. "Oh, please," she whimpered. "Don't touch me, please." Gabriel knelt beside the bed. "Violet, wake up. You're safe." Her eyes flew open, wild and unfocused. For a horrible moment, she didn't recognize him. Then clarity returned, and she collapsed forward, sobbing into his chest. "I'm sorry," she gasped. "I'm so sorry. I have them every night." Gabriel held her, his hand stroking her hair. "Nightmares about Marcus. About everything." She pulled back, wiping her eyes. "My aunt, the things she did, the things she said, how she locked me in my room for days if I disobeyed, how she told me I was worthless, damaged, that no one would ever want me." Rage burned through Gabriel's veins. She was wrong. About all of it. Was she? Violet's voice broke. "Look at me. 24 years old and I can barely function in the world? I've never had a real relationship. Never been kissed until you? Never felt anything but fear." Her eyes met his. "Maybe I am damaged." Gabriel framed her face with his hands. "Listen to me. What your aunt did to you was abuse. Isolation. Control. That wasn't love. That wasn't protection. That was cruelty." His thumbs wiped away her tears. "You survived that. You walked out of that apartment and came to me. That took courage most people don't have. You're not damaged. You're a survivor." Violet's breath hitched. "I don't feel like a survivor." "Then let me show you what you are." Gabriel kissed her with every ounce of tenderness he possessed. Soft, gentle, a promise wrapped in touch. Violet melted into him, her hands gripping his shirt like he was the only solid thing in a tilting world. When they broke apart, Gabriel whispered against her lips, "Stay with me tonight. Not for anything except sleep. Let me hold you. Let me prove you're safe." Violet nodded, unable to speak. They moved to Gabriel's bed. He pulled her against his chest, wrapping the blankets around them both. Violet's head rested over his heart. The steady rhythm seemed to calm her. "Tell me about your sister," she whispered. Gabriel stiffened. He hadn't spoken about Emily in years, but something about the darkness and Violet's warmth against him loosened the words. "Emily was 10 years younger than me. She had a congenital heart defect. Our parents spent their lives trying to fix her. Surgeries, treatments, experimental procedures. I watched them pour everything into keeping her alive." His voice roughened. "When I was 25, she needed another surgery. Routine, they said. Low risk. But something went wrong. A complication no one saw coming. She died on the table." Violet's hand found his. "I'm so sorry. My parents blamed themselves. Our family fell apart. My father threw himself into work. My mother into pills and alcohol. I became a surgeon because I couldn't save Emily, but maybe I could save someone else's sister, someone else's daughter." He paused. "But I stopped letting myself care, because caring meant loss. And I couldn't survive that again, till me," Violet said softly, "until you."
Oh.
They lay in silence, breathing in sync. Gabriel felt something inside him shift, a thawing of ice that had encased his heart for a decade. It was terrifying and exhilarating and completely out of his control. Morning came too soon. Gabriel woke to find Violet already up, standing at the window, watching the sun rise over the city. She wore one of his shirts. It fell to her thighs, making her look even smaller. Even more vulnerable? "Coffee?" Gabriel asked, padding to the kitchen. "Please." They moved around each other in comfortable silence. Gabriel made coffee while Violet found pastries in his. Refrigerator. Domestic. Normal. As if they had been doing this for years. Instead of ours. Then Gabriel's phone. Buzzed. It was Mrs. Chen. Her message made his blood run. "COLD, Dr. Sterling. We have a problem. Someone accessed Violet Rose's file overnight. All her information, home address, medical history, personal details. Security is investigating, but the breach came from inside the clinic. Gabriel's hands tightened on his phone. Inside the clinic, someone he worked with, someone he trusted. What's wrong? Violet saw his expression. Gabriel showed her the message. Someone accessed your file. They know you're here. Violet's face drained of color. Marcus, it has to be. But he couldn't do this alone. Someone at the clinic is helping him. Gabriel pulled up his contact list. I'm calling security. We'll find whoever did this. But before he could dial, his phone rang. An unknown number. Gabriel's instinct screamed at him not to answer, but he did anyway. Dr. Sterling. The voice was smooth, cultured, dangerous. Or may I call you Gabriel? We have a mutual friend. Who is this? Marcus Thorne. I believe you have something that belongs to me. Gabriel's grip on the phone turned white-knuckled. Violet doesn't belong to anyone. Marcus laughed. Oh, but she does. You see, Violet and I have an arrangement. One she's conveniently forgotten to mention. What arrangement? Ask her yourself. Ask her why she really came to your clinic. Ask her what she promised me in exchange for her freedom. Marcus's voice turned cold. And ask her who really killed your sister 10 years ago? The line went dead. Gabriel turned slowly to Violet. She stood frozen by the window, her face a mask of terror. What is he talking about? Gabriel's voice was barely controlled. What arrangement? What does he mean about Emily? Violet's eyes filled with tears. Gabriel, I can explain. Then explain. Not at first. By the time I realized who you were, I was already falling for you. I couldn't tell you. I was too afraid. Ice flooded Gabriel's veins. Tell me what? Violet's next words shattered his world. My aunt. The one who raised me. Her name was Rebecca Thorne, Marcus's mother. She was the anesthesiologist on duty the day your sister died. The complication that killed Emily, it wasn't an accident. Rebecca made a mistake, a fatal one. And Marcus has been covering it up for 10 years. Tears streamed down her face. He sent me to you, told me to get close, to make you trust me, so he could control you. Control your family's medical empire. And if I didn't do it, he'd expose what Rebecca did. Ruin her memory. Destroy the only family I had left. The silence that followed was deafening. Gabriel stared at the woman he thought he knew. The woman he had opened his heart to. The woman who had just admitted she was sent to manipulate him. Get out, he said quietly. Gabriel, please, get out. His voice was raw with betrayal. You lied to me, used me. My sister's death was your family's fault, and you came here to finish the job. You're just as bad as he is. Violet flinched as if he had struck her. I was trapped. I didn't have a choice. There's always a choice. You made yours. Violet grabbed her bag with trembling hands. At the door, she turned back. I love you. I know you don't believe me, but it's true. Everything I felt was real. Gabriel turned his back. Leave before I call security. The door closed with a soft click. Gabriel stood alone in his pristine penthouse, surrounded by glass and steel and the ashes of everything he thought he had built, and he had no idea that the real betrayal was still to come.
3 days passed in a fog of fury and grief. Gabriel threw himself into work. 16-hour surgeries, back-to-back consultations, anything to keep his mind from the woman with violet eyes and a web of lies. But every quiet moment brought her back. The way she looked in his shirt, the way she trembled in his arms, the way she said his name like a prayer, all of it a performance. On the third night, Mrs. Chen knocked on his office door. Her face was grave. Doctor, you need to see this. She handed him a tablet. Security footage from the night Violet's file was accessed. Gabriel watched the timestamp. 2:47 a.m., the hallway outside the records room. A figure approached, used a keycard, disappeared inside. Zoom in, Gabriel commanded. The image sharpened. Gabriel's blood turned to ice. The figure was Mrs. Chen. He looked up at his assistant, the woman who had worked for him for 5 years, who knew every detail of his life, who he trusted implicitly. "Explain?" he said coldly. Mrs. Chen's composure cracked. "He has my daughter, Dr. Sterling. Marcus Thorne. She's 14. He took her 3 months ago, said he'd kill her if I didn't help him." Tears spilled down her face. "I gave him access to patient files, schedules, security codes, everything. I had no choice." Gabriel stood slowly. "Where is your daughter now?" "I don't know. He moves her every few days. Sends me photos to prove she's alive." Mrs. Chen's voice broke. "I'm so sorry. I never wanted to betray you. But she's my child." The rage Gabriel expected didn't come. Instead, he felt a cold, calculating clarity. "Give me everything. Every communication with Thorne. Every location he's mentioned. Every detail you remember. What are you going to do?" "I'm going to end this." Gabriel made 2 phone calls. The first to a private investigator who specialized in finding missing persons. The second to someone he had sworn never to contact again, his father. David Sterling answered on the first ring. "Gabriel, this is unexpected. I need your help." Gabriel's voice was tight. "Marcus Thorne. What do you know about him?" Silence. "Then why are you asking about Thorne?" "Because he's been manipulating everyone around me, using people's children as leverage, and it has something to do with Emily's death." Another long pause. "Meet me at the house, 1 hour. Come alone." Gabriel drove through the night to his childhood home in the hills. He hadn't been here in 5 years. The mansion loomed out of the darkness, all stone and shadows. His father waited in the study, aged and gray in ways Gabriel didn't remember. "Tell me," Gabriel said without preamble. David poured 2 glasses of scotch. "After Emily died, I investigated. Quietly. I discovered Rebecca Thorne made a critical error during the anesthesia. But it was more than incompetence. She was being blackmailed by her own son. Marcus wanted control of her medical practice. When she refused, he threatened to expose her previous mistakes. Other patients who died, she was terrified, distracted, and Emily paid the price." Gabriel's hands shook. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because Rebecca died 6 months later. Car accident." "But I don't think it was an accident. I think Marcus killed her when she became a liability." David met his son's eyes. "I couldn't prove it. Thorne is connected, powerful. He covers his tracks. So I built this empire instead, made our family untouchable, so he could never hurt us again." "But he did," Gabriel said bitterly. "He sent Violet to me. Her niece. Rebecca's niece." David's face paled. "Violet Rose. God, I didn't make the connection. She claims Marcus is forcing her, using Rebecca's memory as leverage." Gabriel drank his scotch in one burning gulp. "But I don't know what to believe anymore." "Then find out the truth." David stood, opening a safe hidden behind a painting. He pulled out a thick file. "This is everything I have on Thorne. Properties, business dealings, associates. If he's holding Mrs. Chen's daughter, she'll be in one of these locations." Gabriel took the file. "Why are you helping me?" "Because I failed Emily. I won't fail you too." For the first time in 10 years, Gabriel saw his father as something other than a cold, distant figure. He saw a man drowning in grief and guilt, a man who had built walls just like Gabriel, and suddenly he understood. "Thank you," Gabriel said quietly. He left with the file and a renewed sense of purpose, but when he reached his car, a figure stepped from the shadows. Violet. She looked terrible. Dark circles under her eyes, hair tangled, the cream dress she wore 3 days ago now wrinkled and stained. "What are you doing here?" Gabriel's voice was harder than he intended. "I couldn't stay away. I know you hate me. I know I deserve it. But I need you to listen." She pulled out a phone. Her hands shook as she opened a video. "This came tonight." Gabriel watched. The video showed a girl, maybe 14, tied to a chair in a concrete room. She was crying. Behind her stood Marcus Thorne, his face never fully visible but his voice unmistakable. 2 more days, Violet. Then I start removing fingers. Tell Dr. Sterling to cooperate or Mrs. Chen's daughter pays the price." The video ended. Gabriel looked at Violet, really looked at her. He saw the terror in her eyes, the exhaustion, the desperation, and underneath it all something real, something true. "You didn't send this to Mrs. Chen," he said slowly. "No, he sent it to me, as a reminder of what he's capable of, as proof that he'll hurt anyone I care about if I don't finish what I started. Violet's voice cracked. He wants me to convince you to sign over your family's medical patents, to give him control of your research. And if I don't do it in 48 hours, that girl dies. Gabriel's mind raced. Where did this video come from? Can we trace it? I don't know. I'm not good with technology. I barely know how to use this phone. She looked at him with desperate hope. But you're brilliant. If anyone can figure this out, it's you. Gabriel took the phone. His fingers flew over the screen, examining metadata, tracing digital footprints. Years of medical training had taught him to see patterns, to find connections others missed. And then he saw it. The timestamp on the video was wrong. It had been recorded hours before it was supposedly sent, which meant it was pre-recorded, which meant Marcus had planned this exact conversation. Gabriel's blood went cold. He looked at Violet with new eyes. This is another manipulation, he said slowly. He knew you'd come to me with this, knew I'd start to soften, knew I'd want to save that girl. His voice hardened. How do I know you're not still working with him? Violet's face crumpled. Because I'm not. I swear to you, Gabriel, everything changed when I fell in love with you. I tried to leave Marcus, tried to disappear, but he found me, threatened me, told me he'd kill everyone I cared about if I didn't see this through. Prove it. Violet reached into her bag. She pulled out a small recording device. This is every conversation I've had with Marcus for the past 6 months. Every threat, every manipulation, every horrible thing he's made me do. She pressed it into Gabriel's hands. Take it to the police. Use it to destroy him. I don't care what happens to me. Just stop him before he hurts anyone else. Gabriel stared at the device, then at Violet. In her eyes, he saw something he recognized. The same look Emily had right before she went into surgery. Acceptance. The knowledge that she might not survive, but the willingness to try anyway. If I use this, Marcus will know you gave it to me, Gabriel said. He'll come after you. I know. Violet's voice was steady for the first time since he met her. But I can't let him win. I can't let him hurt anyone else because I was too afraid to fight back. Gabriel made a decision. Get in the car. They drove in silence back to his penthouse. Once inside, Gabriel played the recordings. Marcus's voice filled the room, cold and calculating as he detailed his plans. How he had groomed Violet from childhood through her aunt. How he had orchestrated Rebecca's death to gain control of her estate. How he had been systematically destroying anyone who threatened his empire. And then came the revelation that changed everything. Your precious Dr. Sterling, Marcus's voice said on the recording. He thinks his father is so noble, so protective. But David Sterling knew about Rebecca's mistake from the beginning. He paid her to keep quiet, paid her to take the fall alone. And when she threatened to expose his involvement in covering up other malpractice cases at his hospitals, he called me, asked me to handle it. The recording continued. So I did. I killed Rebecca, made it look like an accident. And your dear father-in-law paid me handsomely for my silence. The great David Sterling. The man who built a medical empire on corpses and cover-ups. The recording ended. Gabriel stood frozen, his entire world tilted on its axis. His father, the man who just gave him a file, who claimed to want to help, had been working with Marcus all along. No, Gabriel whispered. That's not possible. But even as he said it, pieces clicked into place. The way his father had been so quick to help, the way he had that file ready, the way he knew exactly where Marcus might be keeping his victims. It was a trap. Gabriel grabbed his phone, pulling up the investigator's number. But before he could dial, the penthouse lights went out. Emergency lighting kicked in, bathing everything in red. Gabriel pulled Violet behind him, scanning the darkness. He's here, Violet breathed. Marcus is here. The elevator dinged. Doors opened. Marcus Thorne stepped into the penthouse, flanked by 2 armed men. He was handsome in a cold, predatory way. Expensive suit, slicked back hair, a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Dr. Sterling, Marcus said pleasantly. Thank you for gathering all the evidence in one convenient location. Gabriel's mind raced. You wanted Violet to give me those recordings. Of course. Can't have loose ends. Once you're both dead, I'll take the recordings, the files, everything. Your father will rule your death a tragic murder-suicide. Grief-stricken doctor kills the woman who betrayed him. Then himself. Very dramatic. Marcus pulled a gun from his jacket. Poor Mrs. Chen's daughter will tragically die in the crossfire. and I'll walk away clean." "You won't get away with this," Gabriel said. "I already have." Marcus raised the gun. Time slowed. Gabriel saw Violet move before he could stop her. She threw herself in front of him just as Marcus fired. The shot echoed like thunder. Violet's body jerked. Blood bloomed across her chest. She collapsed into Gabriel's arms. "No!" Gabriel's scream was primal. He lowered her to the floor, his hands pressing against the wound. Medical training kicked in automatically. "Stay with me. Violet, stay with me." Her eyes found his. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "For everything. But loving you was real. Don't you dare," Gabriel choked. "Don't you dare leave me," Marcus laughed. How touching. "Now, Dr. Sterling, if you'll just stand up slowly." But Gabriel wasn't listening. His eyes locked on something behind Marcus. The window. The reflection in the glass. Mrs. Chen stood in the shadows. A fire extinguisher raised. Everything happened at once. Mrs. Chen swung. The extinguisher connected with one guard's head. He dropped. Gabriel lunged forward, tackling Marcus. They hit the ground hard. The gun skittered across the floor. The second guard raised his weapon, but Mrs. Chen threw the extinguisher. It struck his chest. He stumbled backward into the window. The glass shattered. The guard's scream cut off abruptly as he fell 50 stories. Gabriel and Marcus fought for the gun. Fists connected with flesh. Blood sprayed. Gabriel's surgical hands, so precise in the operating room, became weapons. He drove his elbow into Marcus's throat, grabbed the gun, pressed it against Marcus's temple. "Where is Mrs. Chen's daughter?" Gabriel's voice was death. Marcus smiled through broken teeth. "You'll never find her in time." Gabriel's finger tightened on the trigger. One squeeze. That's all it would take. Justice for Emily, for Violet, for everyone Marcus had destroyed. But then Violet's voice, weak and fading. "Gabriel, don't become him." Gabriel looked at the woman bleeding out on his floor, the woman who had sacrificed everything to save him, the woman he loved despite every reason not to. He made his choice. Gabriel knocked Marcus unconscious with the gun, threw it aside, rushed back to Violet. "Stay with me," he begged, pressing harder against her wound. "I can fix this. I can save you." Violet's hand touched his face. "You already did." Her eyes closed. Gabriel screamed for Mrs. Chen to call an ambulance. But as sirens wailed in the distance and Marcus Thorne lay unconscious on his floor, Gabriel knew one truth. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The operating room blazed white and cold. Gabriel scrubbed his hands with mechanical precision, though they shook. Through the observation window, Violet lay on the table, her chest open, her heart exposed. Another surgeon worked frantically. Gabriel had been barred from the surgery. Too close, too emotional, protocol. But he couldn't leave, couldn't tear his eyes away from the woman who had taken a bullet meant for him. 4 hours passed like 4 lifetimes. Finally, the surgeon emerged. Dr. Sarah Patel, one of the best in the country. Her face was unreadable. "She's alive," Dr. Patel said. "The bullet missed her heart by millimeters. But Gabriel, she's not out of danger. The next 48 hours are critical." Gabriel sagged against the wall. "Can I see her?" "Not yet. She needs to stabilize." Dr. Patel put a hand on his shoulder. "You should go home, shower, eat. There's nothing you can do here." But Gabriel couldn't move. Wouldn't move. He sank into a waiting room chair and buried his face in his hands. Hours later, a detective arrived. Young, sharp-eyed, carrying a tablet. "Dr. Sterling, Detective Morrison, I need to ask you some questions about tonight." Gabriel told him everything. The recordings, Marcus's confession, the fight. The detective listened, making notes. "Marcus Thorne is in custody," Morrison said. "Along with your father." Gabriel's head snapped up. "What?" "We found Mrs. Chen's daughter. She was being held in a property owned by David Sterling. We also found financial records linking your father to multiple cover-ups, including the death of Rebecca Thorne." Morrison's expression was grim. "I'm sorry, Dr. Sterling, but your father has been arrested for conspiracy, accessory to murder, and obstruction of justice." The world tilted. Gabriel had suspected, but hearing it confirmed was different. His father, the man he had idolized and then resented, was a monster. "What happens now?" Gabriel asked. "Both Marcus and your father will face trial. With the recordings Violet provided and the evidence we've gathered, they're looking at life sentences." Morrison stood. You and Miss Rose did a brave thing. You saved lives tonight. After the detective left, Gabriel sat in the sterile waiting room, surrounded by the ghosts of his past. Emily, his mother, his father, Rebecca, all the lies and betrayals and blood that had led to this moment. 2 days crawled by. Gabriel lived in the hospital. He ate cafeteria food that tasted like ash, slept in the waiting room, refused to leave until he could see Violet. Mrs. Chen visited, reunited with her daughter. She thanked Gabriel with tears streaming down her face. You saved her, Mrs. Chen whispered. And I'm so sorry. For everything. You were protecting your child, Gabriel said. I understand. On the 3rd day, Dr. Patel found him. She's awake, and she's asking for you. Gabriel's heart stuttered. He followed Dr. Patel to the recovery room. Violet lay propped against pillows, pale and fragile, but alive. So heartbreakingly alive, her eyes opened when he entered. Hey, she whispered. Gabriel crossed the room in 3 strides. He took her hand carefully, mindful of the IV lines. Hey yourself, you look terrible. A laugh burst from Gabriel, sharp and unexpected. You took a bullet for me and you're criticizing my appearance? Violet smiled weakly. Someone has to. The humor faded. Gabriel sat on the edge of her bed, his thumb tracing circles on her palm. Why did you do it? Step in front of that gun? Because I love you. Violet's voice was simple, honest. And because you gave me something I never had before, hope. The belief that I could be more than what my aunt made me. More than Marcus's pawn. You saw me, Gabriel, the real me, and I couldn't let him take that away. Tears burned Gabriel's eyes. I thought I lost you. When you fell. When I saw the blood. I thought my heart would stop. But it didn't. Your heart is stronger than you think. Gabriel leaned forward, pressing his forehead to hers. I'm sorry. For throwing you out. For not believing you. For everything. You had every reason not to trust me. But I should have. Deep down, I knew the truth. I knew what we had was real. I was just too afraid to admit it. Gabriel pulled back, meeting her eyes. I spent 10 years running from anything that could hurt me. Building walls, keeping everyone at a distance. And then you walked into my office with your violet eyes and your trembling hands, and those walls started crumbling. It terrified me. But Violet, you're the best thing that's ever happened to me. A tear rolled down Violet's cheek. What happens now? With your father? With Marcus? They'll both stand trial. Pay for what they've done. Gabriel's jaw tightened. My father tried to call me. I didn't answer. I don't know if I ever will. He's still your father. He let Emily die. Let Rebecca die. Used people like chess pieces. He's not the man I thought he was. Gabriel's voice cracked. I don't know how to process that. Violet squeezed his hand. One day at a time. Together. Together, Gabriel repeated. The word felt like a promise. Over the following weeks, Violet healed. Slowly. Gabriel was there for every step. Every physical therapy session. Every nightmare. Every small victory. The bullet had damaged her lung, but not irreparably. She would carry a scar, but she would survive. Gabriel closed his practice at Sterling Heart Institute. Too many memories. Too much pain. Instead, he opened a small clinic in the Arts District, near where Violet used to live. He treated people who couldn't afford the luxury of marble floors and Italian leather chairs. People like Violet, who needed help but were too afraid or too poor to ask for it. Violet painted again. Her watercolors transformed from melancholy ocean scenes to vibrant explosions of color. She held her first gallery showing 6 months after the shooting. Gabriel stood beside her, his hand in hers, as strangers admired her work and asked about her inspiration. It's about rebirth, Violet told them. About surviving something that should have destroyed you and coming out stronger. The trial was brutal, Gabriel testified. So did Violet. So did Mrs. Chen and her daughter. Marcus Thorne showed no remorse. David Sterling tried to justify his actions, claiming he was protecting his family. The jury didn't believe either of them. Both men were sentenced to life in prison without parole. Gabriel's father sent letters from prison. Gabriel burned them unread. Some wounds couldn't be forgiven. Some betrayals cut too deep. 1 year after the shooting, Gabriel and Violet stood on the beach at sunset. The Pacific Ocean stretched endlessly before them, catching fire in the dying light. Violet had never been to the beach before. Too afraid, too isolated. But now, with Gabriel beside her, she wasn't afraid anymore. "I have something to ask you," Gabriel said. He pulled a small box from his pocket. Inside was a simple platinum band with a violet stone at its center. Violet's breath caught. "I know we've been through hell," Gabriel continued. "I know we're both still healing from wounds that may never fully close. I know there will be hard days ahead. Nightmares. Triggers. Moments where the past tries to drag us back." He took her hand. "But I also know that I love you. That you're the strongest person I've ever met. That you saved my life in more ways than one. And I want to spend the rest of my life proving to you that you were worth saving too." He knelt in the sand. "Violet Rose, will you marry me?" Violet's tears caught the sunset light. "Yes, God, yes." Gabriel slipped the ring onto her finger and pulled her into his arms. They kissed as waves crashed around them, tasting salt and joy and the promise of tomorrow. They were married 3 months later in a small ceremony. No fancy venue, no crowd. Just Mrs. Chen and her daughter, Dr. Patel, a handful of close friends, and the ocean as their witness. Gabriel's mother attended, sober for the first time in years. She hugged Violet and whispered, "Thank you for saving my son." Years passed. Gabriel and Violet built a life together. Not perfect, not easy. They both carried scars, inside and out. Violet still had nightmares. Gabriel still struggled with the betrayal of his father. But they faced it together. They opened a foundation in Emily's name, providing free cardiac care to children who couldn't afford it. Violet painted murals on the walls. Gabriel performed surgeries that saved lives. Together, they transformed tragedy into hope. 5 years after that night in the penthouse, Violet gave birth to a daughter. They named her Emily Grace. She had her mother's violet eyes and her father's dark hair. Gabriel held his daughter for the first time and felt his broken heart finally heal. "She's perfect," Violet whispered from the hospital bed. Gabriel looked at his wife, the woman who had walked into his office 5 years ago, fragile and afraid, and changed everything. She was still delicate, still soft-spoken, but there was a strength in her now that blazed brighter than any fear. "So are you," Gabriel said. They had survived betrayal, survived bullets and blood and the worst of humanity. They had faced their demons and come out the other side, scarred but unbroken. And in the end, they learned the most important truth. Love wasn't about perfection. It was about showing up, about choosing each other even when it was hard, about building something beautiful from the ashes of what tried to destroy you. Gabriel Sterling had spent his life trying to fix hearts, but it was Violet Rose who taught him how to heal one, starting with his own. The end.